Hey guys, it's Allie. Welcome back to Bite-Sized Book of Mormon. I'm glad to have you with me. So, if you've never been here before, this is just a podcast where I read through one chapter of the Book of Mormon each episode, and I give a little bit of context, a little bit of insight, a little bit of good times. So, stick around. So, if you remember last episode, we read Alma chapter 19. It's a fairly dramatic chapter. It's kind of where Ammon's missionary work comes to a peak, comes to a head, kind of. And this is after Ammon gives King Lamoni his whole sermon. And at the end of the last chapter, before that, King Lamoni passed out. And then at the beginning of this one, his wife approaches Ammon and goes, "Everyone says that my husband is dead, but I don't think he's dead." And then the rest of the chapter unfolds, and it's very dramatic. And it does end in the king being awoken and preaching to those who came to kind of observe, and they all got converted. So, I mean, there were some that didn't, but all in all, it was a really cool chapter. So yeah, go back, listen to that if you haven't already. But yeah, I think without further ado, let's read Alma chapter 20. And it came to pass that when they had established a church in that land, that King Lamoni desired that Ammon should go with him to the land of Nephi, that he might show him unto his father. And the voice of the Lord came to Ammon, saying, "Thou shalt not go up to the land of Nephi, for behold, the king will seek thy life. But thou shalt go to the land of Middoni, for behold, thy brother Aaron and also Molokai and Emma are in prison." Now it came to pass that when Ammon had heard this, he said unto Lamoni, "Behold, my brother and brethren are in prison at Middoni, and I go that I may deliver them." Now Lamoni said unto Ammon, "I know in the strength of the Lord thou canst do all things. But behold, I will go with thee to the land of Middoni, for the king of the land of Middoni, whose name is Antiamno, is a friend unto me. Therefore I go to the land of Middoni, that I may flatter the king of the land, and he will cast thy brethren out of prison." Now Lamoni said unto him, "Who told thee that thy brethren were in prison?" And Ammon said unto him, "No one hath told me, save it be God." And he said unto me, "Go and deliver thy brethren, for they are in prison in the land of Middoni." So, multiple things about the opening verses of this chapter kind of stick out to me. Firstly, in the very first verse, it's just kind of funny that Lamoni wants to take Ammon to see his dad, just because he kind of wants to, show him to his dad. The last sentence of verse 1 says, that he might show him unto his father. So he wants to be like, "Hey, look, Dad, look what I found. Look at this cool little dude. He's got cool godly powers." I just think it's kind of fun. But also what I find interesting is that he gets an impression where God is telling him, if you go with King Lamoni right now, the king over all the land that he's taking you to, like his father, will try to kill you. So don't do that. Alternatively, do go to the land of Middoni and take your brethren out of prison, because they're kind of stuck in there. And King Lamoni is then like, "Oh, sweet, yeah, no, the king of that land is like a friend of mine, so I'll actually go help you and make a case for you in front of the king, so it'll be great." So let's see how this pans out. And later on in the chapter, we can kind of see how it pans out and then reflect back on what would have happened had he gone in front of King Lamoni's father. And also, one final note, is in verse 4, I love how after Ammon tells King Lamoni what he thinks he should do, how he should go to Middoni instead of go to King Lamoni's father, Lamoni says, "I know in the strength of the Lord thou canst do all things." That is King Lamoni's testimony, and currently, that is kind of one of the foundational things of his testimony. That's what set him off on the track that he's on now, to be a believer in God. That's what sparked his conversion, seeing the power that Ammon had in God. And so it's really just cool to hear him echo, like, "Okay, I trust you. I believe that you can do anything through God, so yeah, let's go do what you think we should do. Like, I trust you." I don't know, that's just kind of cool to see that kind of casual trust that King Lamoni has in Ammon. Now when Lamoni had heard this, he caused that his servants should make ready his horses and his chariots. And he said unto Ammon, "Come, I will go with thee down to the land of Middoni, and there I will plead with the king that he will cast thy brethren out of prison." And it came to pass that as Ammon and Lamoni were journeying thither, they met the father of Lamoni, who was king over all the land. And behold, the father of Lamoni said unto him, "Why did ye not come to the feast on that great day when I made a feast unto my sons and unto my people?" And he also said, "Whither art thou going with this Nephite, who is one of the children of a liar?" And it came to pass that Lamoni rehearsed unto him whither he was going, for he feared to offend him. And he also told him all the cause of his tarrying in his own kingdom, that he did not go unto his father to the feast which he had prepared. And now when Lamoni had rehearsed unto him all these things, behold, to his astonishment, his father was angry with him, and said, "Lamoni, thou art going to deliver these Nephites, who are sons of a liar. Behold, he robbed our fathers, and now his children are also come amongst us, that they may, by their cunning and their lyings, deceive us, that they again may rob us of our property." Now the father of Lamoni commanded him that he should slay Ammon with the sword, and he also commanded him that he should not go to the land of Middoni, but that he should return with him to the land of Ishmael. So things are going downhill very quickly. And so it's not going super great. Although if we know Ammon at this point, we know that he will be perfectly fine. But let's think back to the first few verses, where Ammon was told by God, don't go straight to King Lamoni's father, he will want you dead. And then they run into King Lamoni's father on the way to Middoni, and his father is telling Lamoni to kill Ammon because he's a, quote, son of liars. So obviously, yes, Ammon is in danger, and his life is being sought by King Lamoni's father, but if he were in the court of King Lamoni's father, he would have been able to tie Ammon up and kill him much easier. But because they're on the road in the situation they're in, King Lamoni's father has a lot less power over Ammon. So this is a much safer situation for Ammon, even though he's still running into the person that God said wants his life. Another detail that I want to point out that's a little bit unrelated. Basically, King Lamoni's father runs into King Lamoni and he's like, hey, why weren't you at this feast that I prepared for you? And did you know that right after Ammon got done tending to the sheep and he went straight to prepare the king's horses and chariots for him, it was because King Lamoni was planning on attending that feast. And it was the revelation that Alma was so powerful and then Alma's subsequent preaching that caused him to not go. That's like a fun little detail of like interconnectedness. Like the very fact that Ammon started tending the king's horses wasn't just a little side detail to be like, wow, he's such a faithful, honest, and observant servant. It's like, no, he's actually almost foreshadowing what's happening right now. Because he's preparing King Lamoni for something that he didn't end up going to, and now his father is angry that he didn't end up going to it because of Ammon. It's like a full circle moment right here, like a mini full circle. It's kind of cool. But yeah, as I said, we all know that Ammon is going to be just fine. Like, there was no tension here. We know he has the power of God behind him. So let's basically see how he handles this. Like, what does he do? King Lamoni's father is powerful and angry and is commanding Lamoni himself to kill Ammon. So anyways, let's see how he gets out of this one, huh? But Lamoni said unto him, I will not slay Ammon, neither will I return to the land of Ishmael, but I go to the land of Middoni, that I may release the brethren of Ammon, for I know that they are just men, and holy prophets of the true God. Now when his father had heard these words, he was angry with him, and he drew his sword that he might smite him to the earth. But Ammon stood forth and said unto him, Behold, thou shalt not slay thy son. Nevertheless, it were better that he should fall than thee. For behold, he has repented of his sins. But if thou shouldst fall at this time, in thine anger, thy soul could not be saved. And again, it is expedient that thou shouldst forbear. For if thou shouldst slay thy son, he being an innocent man, his blood would cry from the ground to the Lord his God, for vengeance to come upon thee, and perhaps thou wouldst lose thy soul. Now when Ammon had said these words unto him, he answered him, saying, I know that if I should slay my son, that I should shed innocent blood, for it is thou that hast sought to destroy him. And he stretched forth his hand to slay Ammon, but Ammon withstood his blows, and also smote his arm that he could not use it. Now when the king saw that Ammon could slay him, he began to plead with Ammon that he would spare his life. So a lot of things have happened, and I have a lot of thoughts. This is so cool. So firstly, King Lamoni's first response to his father is, No, I will not kill Ammon, and I will not be going with you to the land of Ishmael. I am going to go to Middoni and free Ammon's brethren, because I know both him and his brethren are just men, and they serve a just and true God. That's powerful. He's standing up to his father, who is the king, mind you, over all the land. So King Lamoni is just the king over one of the many kingdoms that his father rules over. He's not only standing up to his father, he's standing up to someone who has, like, jurisdiction over him. He could kill King Lamoni, he could replace King Lamoni, he could destroy his kingdom. He has that kind of power. And King Lamoni is still standing up and being like, no, I will not do anything that you're telling me to do, because I believe that these are just men who serve a true God. Like, that's beautiful. Good job, King Lamoni. He's really flexing his, like, newfound spiritual muscles. He's really getting put to the test right now. And he's passing with flying colors, I gotta say. This is amazing. And then Ammon kind of takes the torch from King Lamoni and starts talking to King Lamoni's father and goes, It would actually be better for your own son to die than you, because you are not innocent and he is. He has repented. He's made himself right with God, but you haven't. You are shedding innocent blood, and that blood will cry unto God, vengeance upon your head. If you kill your son, you are going to be, like, eternally screwed. This is your fair warning before you do anything rash. Ammon's really like, you really don't want to do this. Like, this is a horrible, horrible idea. And then the High King shoots back and goes, yeah, I know if I killed my own son, that would be innocent blood. But you aren't innocent. You are trying to destroy him. I want to kill you. Foolishly, not knowing who Ammon is or what he can do, the High King, which is what I'm going to start calling him from now on, starts to fight Ammon, which, if he got the lowdown from his son, he would not try. He would not even try. But at least Ammon did not cut his entire arm off. He just cut it, quote-unquote, so that he could not use it anymore. So in, like, some of the art of this, there's just kind of like a slice on his, like, shoulder. So he probably took out, like, a tendon or something that, you know, made his arm kind of useless. But yeah, so yeah, Ammon obviously very quickly won the very short sword fight that the High King started. And yeah, so not only did King Lamoni get to flex his new spiritual muscles, and he got to bear testimony to his own father and king, but also Ammon was able to get in a little bit of gospel by being like, by the way, he repented, you haven't. You would be more screwed if you died right now. And then, my final point about this section is in verse 21, as soon as Ammon gets the upper hand, the High King completely folds. He goes from telling his son to kill Ammon, yelling at Ammon, calling him a child of a liar, calling his entire people thieves and robbers, and then he immediately, as soon as he loses the fight, folds and begs for his life. Like, this man has no spine. So yeah, let's see kind of where Ammon takes this. And he kind of does have the High King at sword point, with King Lamoni standing by. So he probably won't kill the High King, but what is he gonna do? But Ammon raised his sword and said unto him, Behold, I will smite thee, except thou wilt grant unto me that my brethren may be cast out of prison. Now the king, fearing that he should lose his life, said, If thou wilt spare me, I will grant unto thee whatsoever thou wilt ask, even to half of the kingdom. Now when Ammon saw that he had wrought upon the old king according to his desire, he said unto him, If thou wilt grant that my brethren may be cast out of prison, and also that Lamoni may retain his kingdom, and that ye be not displeased with him, but grant that he may do according to his own desires in whatsoever thing he thinketh, then will I spare thee. Otherwise I will smite thee to the earth. Now when Ammon had said these words, the king began to rejoice because of his life. And when he saw that Ammon had no desire to destroy him, and when he also saw the great love he had for his son Lamoni, he was astonished exceedingly, and said, Because this is all thou hast desired, that I would release thy brethren, and suffer that my son Lamoni should retain his kingdom, behold, I will grant unto you that my son may retain his kingdom from this time and forever, and I will govern him no more. And I will also grant unto thee that thy brethren may be cast out of prison, and thou and thy brethren may come unto me in my kingdom, for I shall greatly desire to see thee. For the king was greatly astonished at the words which he had spoken, and also at the words which had been spoken by his son Lamoni. Therefore he was desirous to learn them. So, the High King is now interested in hearing from Ammon and his brethren. The High King goes from angry at King Lamoni and screaming at Ammon because he's a disgusting Nephite, to being afraid and under Ammon's sword point, to being happy for having his life, and also curious about what Ammon and his brethren have going for them that he's missing. Because clearly there's something here that kind of changed his son Lamoni's life that he doesn't really understand, and he wants to understand it. So Ammon has an ability to inspire curiosity in people. Because this was the same thing that happened to King Lamoni. King Lamoni saw what Ammon did with the sheep and was like, Who are you? How did you do that? What is happening here? And then when the High King saw King Lamoni and Ammon's relationship and how Lamoni had changed since he had met Ammon, he was also like, what's going on here? There's something more than on the surface. This is not a regular Nephite. There's something special here and I don't know what it is, but I want to know. That seems to be Ammon's forte, is inspiring curiosity, like genuine curiosity. And it is only when people are genuinely curious and open that they really truly learn and are able to receive the gospel in a true sense. So good job, Ammon. It's pretty cool. And also it's a nice kind of side detail that not only does Ammon want to be able to go to Middoni as he planned, but he also wants King Lamoni to keep his job and his kingdom and stay free. Like, he doesn't want King Lamoni to have repercussions for how he treated his own father. I'm sure Ammon was kind of standing by watching King Lamoni chew out his own father, being like, oh no, I have to make sure that he doesn't get repercussions for this, because this could be really bad for King Lamoni. And so it is nice that he made sure that his friend King Lamoni had job security, I guess. And he made sure that King Lamoni's father promised that King Lamoni would be able to retain his kingdom, which is awesome. And then the king goes, oh yeah, no, like he can totally have his kingdom. And in fact, I'm not even going to govern over him anymore. Now he's going to be an independent kingdom. Not only am I not going to make him lose his job, but I'm also going to give him more freedom than he had before. So, I don't know. All's well that ends well, I guess. Even though King Lamoni's father currently can't use one of his arms. Again, all's well that ends well, right? And it came to pass that Ammon and Lamoni proceeded on their journey towards the land of Middoni. And Lamoni found favor in the eyes of the king of the land. Therefore, the brethren of Ammon were brought forth out of prison. And when Ammon did meet them, he was exceedingly sorrowful. For behold, they were naked, and their skins were worn exceedingly, because of being bound with strong cords. And they also had suffered hunger, thirst, and all kinds of afflictions. Nevertheless, they were patient in all their sufferings. And, as it happened, it was their lot to have fallen into the hands of a more hardened and a more stiff-necked people. Therefore, they would not hearken unto their words, and they had cast them out, and had smitten them, and had driven them from house to house, and from place to place, even until they had arrived in the land of Middoni. And there they were taken and cast into prison, and bound with strong cords, and kept in prison for many days, and were delivered by Lamoni and Ammon. So, Ammon got his brethren out of the prison in Middoni. Like, they're free. And clearly they went through it. These guys did not have a good time. Apparently, the Lamanites that Ammon went to, compared to the ones that his brethren went to, were a lot more soft-hearted. And, at least from my point of view, it seems that King Lamoni and his people were more ignorant than hard-hearted or wicked. Like, they were wicked just kind of out of ignorance. Like, they thought what they were doing was right and normal. Not necessarily that it was, like, morally upright and shiningly just, but, you know, like, they were not terrible, awful, horrendous people on purpose. It's just kind of how they did things. But it does seem that the brethren of Ammon were not so lucky. So, part of Ammon's success may be that he got really lucky with soft-hearted Lamanites, but it also owes a lot to, again, his strategy that I've kind of talked about in the last few chapters. So, anyways, now that Ammon is kind of reconnected with a couple of his brethren, let's see what they do together. Because, remember, the High King still wants to see them. And if I know Ammon, they're not going to leave that invitation hanging. They're going to take him up on that. So, let's see what happens. So, the standout verse for this chapter is going to be verse 29, which says, And when Ammon did meet them, he was exceedingly sorrowful. For behold, they were naked, and their skins were worn exceedingly, because of being bound with strong cords. And they also had suffered hunger, thirst, and all kinds of afflictions. Nevertheless, they were patient in all their sufferings. So, if you listen closer to that, I'm sure you will not be surprised by the section that I want to bring up. But it's the last phrase of that verse, because basically the whole verse details kind of the state that Ammon's brethren were in when he got them out of jail. They were naked, they were worn down, they were probably starving, and they were just like, they were scuffed up. They had had a time of it. And yet, the verse ends by saying, Nevertheless, they were patient in all their sufferings. That's such an innocuous phrase. It makes it sound like patience in the situation that they were in is easy. But how is that easy? They were going through it. They were suffering. They were trying to teach these hard-hearted, wicked people, and they were getting beaten and thrown around and kicked out of cities and potentially starved and stripped naked. And yet, they were patient in all of their afflictions. The way that it's worded kind of undersells the gravity of that. How do you do that? And I think that this situation can really be applied to our own lives by remembering that our lives are often extremely difficult, and often we're going through seasons of affliction at a time. But it will end. Regardless of what it is, it will end. Or you will grow into it, or you will overcome it in some way. The affliction will get lighter if it doesn't end. And the brethren of Ammon, luckily their affliction did end because they were taken out of prison, but that doesn't mean that they'll never have affliction again, and that doesn't mean that they'll never be happy again, because if you know the story, then you know that in the following chapters, Ammon's brethren are able to help Ammon convert even more people than Ammon did on his own. And so even though Ammon's brethren, who were thrown into jail, had horrible, awful, no good luck up to this point, that season of affliction likely prepared them for the success that they have later on. It likely put them in the right place at the right time, in the right frame of mind to be able to do the great service that they end up doing. So keep in mind, not only will your afflictions get lighter or will they end, but they are preparing you for something greater. They're putting you in a situation where you can help others. And I know from personal experience, I've gone through extremely difficult things in my life, and what I've gone through has helped me empathize with those that are going through something similar. It has helped me understand and reach out to them in ways that I wouldn't be able to otherwise. So keep in mind that even though Ammon's brethren had just the awful time that they had, they will go forward to do amazing things. And I think the fact that they were patient through it, and they likely trusted God through it, helped them get through it better. If you remember a while ago, I had a episode that I titled Endure It Well, because you can endure things badly. Like, you can be going through an affliction and just suffering, and you can get mad at it, and you can, let it wallow inside of you. And you can really let your afflictions screw with you, but I think if you, as I said before, endure it well, trust in God, and if you are patient through it, then you can truly get the most out of it, and it will be the most beneficial for you. So anyways, afflictions are good, guys. So yeah, that is the episode for today. I hope you enjoyed. I certainly enjoyed this chapter, and in fact, it's only setting up for some better chapters in the near future, so look forward to that. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this goes. I love this era of Nephite missionary work. It's so much fun to read. But yeah, there's just a handful of links down in the show notes that I want to go over. So if you want to message me, the first link is titled Let Me Know You Learn, so you can message me there, or you can DM me on Instagram, either way. You can also access the Book of Mormon for yourself in a digital copy if you don't already have one, with the links down below. There's web and app downloads. And also, if you want to support the show, there's a quick support the show link where you can just shoot me a few dollars and call it good. And we're also on YouTube, so if you want to go subscribe to the YouTube channel and find some extra content on there, go ahead, subscribe there. And if you're coming from YouTube, how's it going? What's up? You can also listen on other platforms, fun fact. And finally, we are now on Instagram. So if you want to go follow me on Instagram, you will find daily trivia polls. Sometimes you will find some stupid little reels that I film. So stupid little Book of Mormon meme videos, basically. And also just episode announcements and standout verses. It's a really good time. So yeah, go and follow me there. But anyways, I'm so grateful to have you with me. I really hope you do have a genuinely lovely day. And yeah, that's all I got for you today. I'll talk to you later. Bye.